Yeah.
Hey everybody! Hey guys!
Hi
Back
there.
for another stream, and this week I have with me Naomi again. Landon is still on vacation. She might be popping into the chat a little bit today, but it's going to be me and Naomi today. So Naomi, get us started while I get the game going.
Absolutely. Yeah. So today we're talking about symbolism and ritual in everyday life. What are rituals? How they're important in everyday life. We're going to give some examples, and eventually start talking about how rituals are present in writing,
Hmm.
and a little bit more about our rituals when we write as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of my life and a big part of my writing process. So I'm really excited to share some of that with all of you guys.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think we should go ahead and start our favorite things.
Yeah. Okay. So while you guys are getting into the chat and getting going, let's do favorite things. So my favorite thing this week, in honor of having Naomi back as our resident Brit, is Bad Education, which is this show that all the three seasons were added to Netflix. Although I'm pretty sure it's a BBC show. I'm not totally sure, but I know it's a British show. And oh my god, it's hilarious. Hey, Bree! Oh my gosh, hey! I'm so excited to have you on in just a little bit. Bree's going to be joining us a little later too, guys. So it's so funny. It's about this classroom basically, and they have their teacher is like he's kind of dumb, but he's kind of nice too, and it's all like very dry British cheesy jokes. And the reason why I think it's so funny and appropriate to mention as a favorite thing is because they go to Nando's all the time. So call back
Oh
to our
yeah.
very first episode where I was talking about the Nando's, peri peri sauce.
Yeah.
uh,
Wow.
and it's so funny. So if you've not seen Bad Education, if you're looking for another like cool comedy to watch, I recommend it. It's on Netflix. It's on the US Netflix, and there's three seasons of it. The seasons aren't super long. They're only 6 or 7 episodes. So we're almost done with it actually, and then it's gonna be done. Kind of sad, but it's really funny, and it's been like a nice funny thing to watch. While all the craziness is going on in the world.
Yeah, that sounds great. But you know what you have to watch next, though, don't you?
Oh, I know. I still need to watch that Queen of the South. Another thing that I want to watch since it's like back now, is because I missed watching Avatar: The Last Airbender when that was like a big thing. I was just slightly too old for it, I think, and so I just totally missed that window. So that's another on my to watch list. But yeah, Bad Education has been really funny, and I recommend it to everybody.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'll have to give that a watch. I've
Yeah.
not seen that actually. So
Really? Okay. I didn't know if it was like an actual popular thing in the UK or if it just was like just, you know, not really that much. But I'm really enjoying it.
yeah, it might be. It might be, but because I'm so sort of busy with the kids, I don't
Yeah.
really get. I'm so behind on our soaps like EastEnders. So
Oh.
far behind on that. So I've got to catch up.
Oh gosh. Well, what was your favorite thing this week, Naomi?
It actually involves Brie and Summer.
Oh.
Yeah. I actually got them into colouring
Oh,
this
they got
week.
into the coloring too.
Yeah, so they got their colouring books out, and Summer went and got some supplies, and she was using her markers and things, and so I'm hoping that they enjoy it and keep doing it, and then make an Instagram and join the community, and
I
yeah,
love it.
because it's so relaxing and it just helps me unwind. So I think that it could benefit people that are struggling with lockdown, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anybody that's struggling in today's climate, because it kind of sort of it calms down the brain. Um, it has a relaxing effect on the amygdala, and it's essentially the same as a meditative state when you're in the thick of it, and you can just really relax, and it just helps me so much. So that was good.
Oh, I love it. Oh no, he broke one of the pinatas. Um,
Oh dear.
yeah. It's okay. We got to get that Mallow Wolf. I got to get a Death Star to scare anyway. I love that. Coloring is one of those things that I just I would love to get into, but like I just don't have the time to really learn it and be good at it. But I do have a few coloring books and I like doing it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
mine's not like, Instagram worthy, community worthy, or things like that.
So Bree says I got frustrated because I didn't like how it turned out, but I do like colouring and I'll try and do it.
Yeah.
Your owl was great. I don't know why you were frustrated. I know you were frustrated about the grey you put, but it was okay. I loved it. She had a nice like gradient going on, and
Oh.
it was like red and orange and yellow, so it kind of reminded me of like a Fire Witch's Familiar kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's great.
Very cool. But I guess that's kind of how I feel like about coloring too, because I'm not quite good enough for it to turn out the way that I really want it to turn out, you know?
Yeah.
So I get a little bit annoyed with it. And I know if I kept
Yeah.
practicing, like I could actually get good at it, but I just don't have
Yeah.
the capacity or the time at the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. It makes me laugh because Summer's fiance, uh, he was in the room while she was colouring, and her pencil kept breaking, and she kept sort of making sounds and like frustration. And he like turns to her and says, "I thought this was supposed to be relaxing."
Ah! It's true though. Oh, apparently you're a little bit quiet, Naomi. Can you turn up this volume on your computer a little bit? That should probably fix it.
Yeah, I can try. Is this better now?
I think it sounds a little louder. Y'all let us know if Naomi still sounds quiet, and we can work on that. Thank you so much.
Yes, cheers for that. And I can just imagine him like swiveling around on a chair and just looking at her down his glasses. Like I thought this was supposed to be relaxing.
Ah! It's
So
too
that made me
funny.
laugh.
It's too funny. But when you're first learning a skill like that, it is kind of like that because I feel that too. Like I know coloring's supposed to be relaxing, but I have an idea in my head of how I want it to look. And if it doesn't look like that, then it's like, ugh, it's like not relaxing anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. And even the stage that I'm at now, when I'm choosing colours and things, and I just have an idea of how it needs to turn out. And I don't want to do the pages that I really love because I know I'm not as good as I will be in, say, 6 months. So I keep saving the pages I want to do,
Ah!
and I never do them. So
Well, I have a question for you. A little bit awkward question. Did my card make it into the post, speaking of coloring?
well, it didn't. So get a bit right. I haven't even brought it up to my husband to send, so that's on me again.
Someday.
Someday. I think I need no. To be honest, I'm gonna post you a Christmas card with it. I think so that you'll have one this year because otherwise you'll just never get one.
Oh my god. That's too funny. Ah,
So
the Mallow
you'll
Wolf
probably
left.
you'll probably get a Christmas card in the middle of October.
I mean, it is what it is, right? We'll just pretend. We'll just pretend that it came at Christmas time.
Yeah. Yeah, just save it and then pop it out again at Christmas.
Poor Naomi.
It's just the one thing I'm just so bad at. I hold my hands up and just admit it. I call myself out on my crap. So
I mean, we all have our things, right?
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Okay,
So
well, we do want to get Bree on pretty quick this morning, so do we want to go ahead and move on to like actually starting? I know it's a little bit early. Um, but yeah, are we
yeah,
good with favorite things?
we are. I think definitely.
Okay. Okay, so what are we starting with today?
So, what are rituals?
Okay. So to me, when we're talking about like rituals and symbolism today, right? So to me, when I
Yeah,
think of like what a ritual is, it's really anything. Like I think rituals a lot of times get this very spiritual, very religious connotation, but to me, a ritual is really anything that you're doing that is like a repetitive pattern that helps you get into the right frame of mind for whatever it is that you want to do. So, like, for example, something as simple as having coffee in the morning, like that in a lot of ways is a ritual because if you're a coffee drinker in the mornings like I am, when you don't have it, like you can so feel it, right? You're not in the right
yeah,
frame of mind when you miss your coffee. So to me, that's what a ritual is.
yeah. Definitely, it literally can be anything.
Hmm.
I think what's most important about it is that it's specific to you, and it helps you in some way.
Yeah.
So whether that's taking a shower after you get home from work, whether it's lighting a candle, um, anything. Like, for example, I do that a lot. I light a candle at night once the kids are in bed,
Mm,
and that's a repetitive ritual in a sense.
I like that. Yeah, and it's just for you, right? Like it doesn't necessarily. I think people tend to think that sometimes like rituals have to have a greater meaning, and I don't think they necessarily do. I think they can really
Right.
just it's just anything that gets you into a certain mental state that you're trying to reach. That is a
Yeah,
ritual.
it doesn't necessarily have to have symbolic connotations to it. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be. It doesn't have to be characteristic of a rite or a passage or any kind of connection to religion. But you do find them in religion a lot. Um, but yeah, things like colouring, even what we were just talking about. Once the kids are asleep, that's what I do. That's how I unwind of an
Hmm.
evening, and that helps me.
Yeah.
And I think we have things that we do in writing that we feel safe doing, that we kind of gravitate towards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know there's certain something that I always recommend for people who are struggling to find the motivation to write. Like maybe they have the time to write, but they sit down and like words don't come out. A big thing that I recommend is having some kind of ritual or habit around it. So,
Mm,
if I think about that, like we'll talk about that later when we actually get to the writing portion of it. But
mm-hmm.
but I think about like the fact that, I start work every day at the same time. I think about like how we tend to try to have dinner at the same time every day. It's anything like that I think is ritual.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about it, like even cleaning
Mm.
is a ritual, therapeutic ritual. Some people tend to gravitate towards. It makes them feel better.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and I spoke of showers as well. I know that it does work for me. I'm sort of washing away negativity. I'm washing away stuff that I don't want to deal with. I'm just chilling out, relaxing. And that's a ritual as well. I know my aunt, she has to take 2 showers a day.
Oh my gosh,
Uh,
that's a lot.
yeah, it really is. And those are her rituals, and that helps her refresh in the morning and then just wash everything away in the evening and just get ready for bed.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. She's a massage therapist as well, so she's like quite physical at work, so I think
Ah,
that helps, yeah, wind
yeah.
down.
My office job does not require anything like that.
Yeah. It's quite mental. Probably is quite taxing mentally with what you do.
Yeah, so not so much physically. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
As far
But I
as
know,
that
like,
goes.
yeah, like at the end of the day, it must be like herding children a little bit,
Oh
like what I've
yeah.
got going on in my house, like a
I
babysit.
mean, you're literally hurting children. Just
Oh,
wait until
jeez.
Lizzie, is more, can like walk around easier and talk and all of those fun things.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. She's so quick. She's a bum shuffler, as we call it. She's not a crawl. She'll just shuffle on her bum.
Oh my gosh.
She's so fast, and it's already getting stressful.
I heard that happens to some kids. They get really, really fast at crawling or shuffling or whatever, and it comes to the point where then like they do that for so long and they walk a little bit late because they got so fast at like
Yeah,
the wrong way, right?
yeah, no, definitely. I can see that. I can see her leaning towards that because she can do it now with one hand.
Oh God.
She's got something in her other hand, and she's just sort of pushing herself a bit like a monkey. She's just zooming across the floor.
I feel like I need a
And
video of that at some point. Like get a little clip of it and put it in the server because I want to see this one-handed shuffle.
yeah, definitely. And she's just swinging her body forward and then just landing on the floor and just swinging it again. And oh, it's funny. And I think that she's going to walk a little bit late because I think she's kind of scared to get on her feet and do that.
Well, hey, if she's that fast at the shuffling, why bother, right?
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't need to. But yeah.
Too
Um.
funny.
So yeah, my rituals. a lot of them are checking the place, making sure it's all baby proof, the baby gates are locked. And it's the things I do every day, and they make me feel safe. They make me feel like my children are safe, and yeah, I
Oh
think it's just
yeah, I guess we
it
have
helps.
safety. Yeah, I guess we have safety rituals too in regard to that because if I think about like the things that we do with the animals, right? Because like every night, my dog, she's a senior at this point for those that don't know. So like she can only hold it for so long. So we have to take her out like right before bed. So that's like the end of the day ritual, right? Is to take her
Yeah,
out right at the end of the day there, make sure that she's good to go for the night, and then lock the doors behind her, so that's absolutely a safety ritual, right, to make
yeah,
sure that we're
exactly.
able to be in for the night and good to go.
Yeah, and I think that they do make people feel safe, because my husband was quite surprised at the rituals I have when I'm just simply walking out of the house, being a woman,
Mm,
versus what he does. He's a lot less on edge than I am, and I'm keeping track of cars and things like that, and who's pulled up beside us in a grocery store and things like that. And he was
yep.
just really shocked to hear that I'm that on edge about things, and the little rituals that I have to
Yeah,
to deal with that. So it definitely has an aspect to it.
yep, and keep that mental catalog of all of that stuff going on around you. I mean, I definitely do the same thing. I mean, at this
Yeah,
point, you don't even think about it; it just happens.
no,
But yeah, I
definitely
know
does.
what you mean.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so yeah, and I think that rituals are very, very important because they give you
Hmm.
stability as well, and continuity.
Yep.
Um,
And I
and as I
think,
said before, oh sorry, go
oh no, you're
go ahead.
good. You're good.
They're very unique to you, and you might not even realize that you have rituals till you examine the things that you do. So if you keep a journal or something like that,
Hmm.
um, I know that when I started to keep a journal of what I was doing with the kids during lockdown, it was just easier for me to see, what we might be lacking and what I can maybe do more with Christopher.
Mm.
And so the rituals then just sort of became more apparent to me that way.
Yeah. I think also like the rituals don't necessarily have to be practical. They can also be symbolic. And we're going to talk a little bit about symbolism as well today. But I think they can be symbolic. Like your one of lighting the candle. Like that doesn't really like mean anything in and of itself. It's more like a mental signal of okay, it's time to go to bed now.
Yeah,
Or like what a lot of people do, like my husband likes to read before bed, and it's not that that's like anything in particular. It's more about like that's the signal to his brain that okay, it's sleep time. I'm going to read a little bit, and that makes me tired because I always read a little bit before bed, and it's not really got anything to do with that the act of the thing itself or the practicality of it.
yeah, exactly. It reminds me of something I've started to do in the last year since my father passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again with the candles, I light a candle for him sometimes, and I'll just sort of sit there and remember him. And I'll have times where I do feel that it's symbolic,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because he, I feel sort of more connected to him, and I'm keeping him alive in the sense, because once people stop remembering you, and your name leaves, then you truly are gone,
Yeah,
in my mind. So
kind of like a
um,
second death when people stop talking about you, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So my family have actually adopted that. So that's what we did for him when he first passed away. Um, all of the family, wherever we were in the world, we just stopped at I think it was at 10 p.m. And lit a candle and just sat there in silence, just remembering him. And that was something that we do as a family for him. And it was the anniversary of his death this week,
Oh,
as
I'm
well.
so sorry.
Thanks. So yeah, so we did that again, and that feels quite symbolic, of a way to remember him. Yeah, so that's something that we do.
Yeah. It gives a sense,
Um,
that one gives a sense of community too, because it's you and your whole
yeah,
family doing that sort of thing.
yeah, it brings you closer together, and yeah.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to 20 past now. So I have a guest at the end
Yes.
today, Brianna. She's going to be telling us a little bit about her experiences with ritual and symbolism. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna pop into the other chat and get her ready and bring her up.
sounds good. So while Naomi's doing that, I'll let y'all kind of know. Naomi and I are going to talk about kind of some more of our experiences in particular with ritual and spirituality and some stuff like that. But Bree unfortunately has to go to work today, and she wanted to come join us for this, so we're getting her a little early. So we're going to go through hers first, and then we're going to spend some time after she has to go talking about our experiences before we move on to like how you can apply a lot of this, everyday ritual and symbolism stuff to your writing to like improve things, improve your motivation, and improve the quality of it, and how it resonates with other people and all of those good things. Naomi, give a shout when you're back, because I can't see. I don't have the Discord up on my screen to see when you're back. So just give a shout. Okay. But yeah, we're gonna kind of talk about our journey with all of that stuff, because I grew up in the U.S., and so it's most people in the U.S., or most people that grow up in the southern U.S., are pretty exposed to Christianity and religion from that regard at a very, very early age. So it's always been a part of my life in some form or another. I'm not Christian currently, but we'll talk all about that in a little bit after we get a chance to hear from Breeze. But I think for a lot of us in that part of the country, in that part of the world, it grows from there. I think that's a pretty normal experience. So I'm really curious to hear what Bree's experience has been. I know she's into some other stuff. Okay. So we're trying in this garden. This was asked last time. They're trying in this garden to get a chippopotamus. That's why
Hey,
there's so much freaking water. Hey, okay. Are we back? Do we have Bree?
yes, Bree's here with us now, and she is a friend of mine that I've been role playing with forever. Really, it's been like 7, 8 years now.
Wow.
And she's here today with us to discuss a little bit more about symbolism and religious experiences. So we're going to start off by hearing a little bit more about her experience.
Yeah, Bree, tell us how your experience with ritual and spirituality and religion has been.
Yeah, so I was born Roman Catholic. I come from like a really big Italian Irish family, so it was kind of the way to go, I guess, when I was little. I went to church. We don't really have, I guess, priests. We have what we call a bishop, which comes from the Pope, whole long line like that.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
like, basically, you, it's essentially like you believe in God, you live by God, and you submit, for lack of a better word, to God.
Mm.
Right, so it was kind of expected of you then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess by the time I came along, my mom was really good at like, okay, you're gonna go to church and you're gonna have this like, you will believe in God, but then one day it was kind of like, well, we want you to believe on your own, and I didn't get baptized, which is kind of like
All right.
the main goal of that. When you're like born, you get baptized for like, because you're born. It's a whole long, complicated process, but like she didn't do that basically because she didn't want me to feel like I had to then later on continue that.
So
All
Roman
right, so she
Catholic has
wanted to.
baptism at birth. Is that what you're saying? I'm not super familiar with it, so
Yeah, I think it's roughly around the time of birth. Yeah, you get baptized because they believe that like you're born with sins, and baptism is the only way to get rid of them.
gotcha.
No, that makes
Um,
sense.
but I did not. So
Oh
I guess
wow.
yeah,
So,
she's a lot more calmer with it than I guess say like my grandparents and their parents and so on
so
and
how
so
did
forth.
that go down with your grandparents then? Were they supportive of that?
Um, Not entirely. My my nanny was like kind of like, "What are you doing? Like this is not." It didn't align with how she wanted things to go. But I
Right.
think like me, I still went to church. I still went every Sunday. It was a thing until I was like probably 8 or 9, and then my mom kind of stopped going. Which in turn, when you're younger, like you do what your parents do, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I stopped going, and I remember like again when I was 11, I started going again just on my own with there was like a Sunday school for kids, and they would come pick you up, and it was pretty casual, I guess. But so I mean, I've always had that installation in my brain, I guess, of like, I believe in God, and
Mm-hmm.
I still do today. Don't like, but I think my idea of what they saw God as and what you had to do in order to be like faithful to Him is a lot different than my views nowadays.
I can
Right.
definitely relate to that.
Yeah, like I think I think generally, I guess, like the idea that most people have, Catholic or not, is that like God is always constantly watching over you. He's essentially like the man upstairs in the sky type of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
like I believe God is everywhere, like kind of in everything. So like you still have a choice in like the things you do and the way you do them, and you're not essentially like
Like
kind of
bound to certain things, like certain rituals, let's say.
yeah, exactly. Like your wrongdoings aren't going to be like the end all be all type of thing.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're all human, we all make mistakes, so I think like I kind of look at it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what my husband believes as well. You're quite similar in that regard.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
I can get
Yeah.
behind that because like it's hard to grapple, I think, with in our current world, the concept of sin, right?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
it's like impossible. It's really impossible to live an ethical life, right? Something that we say in kind of in political leftist circles is like there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, right?
Yeah,
So it's kind of
absolutely.
like, and so it's like, how could you even possibly live a life free of sin? Like, I don't know, I have no idea. So I mean, that makes sense to me. If you still want to believe, to reject that idea of sin.
Yeah, I think like yeah, as people like there's a wrong and there's a right, but like it is literally impossible to be right 24/7. That's just not the way the world works. At least
Yeah.
in my head. I mean, I'm sure everyone is open to their own
Yeah.
opinions and such, but I mean, for personally, I
I
think
think
like
I mean,
you have to
personally,
make
I'm
wrong
right.
sometimes to make right.
Personally, I'm right 24/7 and never make any mistakes ever. I didn't do a whole
Absolutely.
episode with Landon about the mistakes that we've made in the past or anything like that. Like,
No, we're all like completely right 24/7.
yeah, I'm
It's
perfect.
fine.
No, but literally, like earlier, we had this problem. I was like, no, Karen will know how to solve it. Get her in
Yeah, and I'm
here.
like, I'm not gonna pretend like I know. Like,
You sound great, by the way. You sound great.
oh, okay, good.
Karen
I'm like,
stealing my line. Hey, Landon, I don't know if you saw my message earlier, but if you do want to pop on for part of this, you're welcome to. I know that there was some like stuff going on with your vacation, but let us know if when we get to the experiences, if you want to share yours too. Um, oh my gosh, hey, is that Masa? Is that Marina? Are you back this week? You can keep going, Bree, with
Oh,
your story about your experience. Sorry, I just got excited because we hadn't seen
oh,
Marina in a couple weeks.
no problem. Hey, Marina. Hello. Um, well, yeah. So I guess that kind of brings me into like my ritual, which is still to this day I pray, which
Mm,
um I don't know if I necessarily like I do pray to God. That's who I talk to when I'm praying. But I feel like I'm generally speaking to like the outward sources, the vibes, which is kind of like a low keyword, but like I kind of speak to energy too. Um, and I don't do it in the traditional sense of like at night I sit beside my bed and I pray. I do it all day long when I feel like I'm in a stressful, anxiety filled environment, or when I'm like I need to be guided. Although generally I still believe that like I'm going to be the one that makes these decisions, so I have to keep my head in that mind frame type of thing.
mm,
yeah.
But I do pray, and I do, even when I do like things like tarot cards and stuff like that, I generally have like energy and sources and light and darkness. It's definitely like all a play on that. So I do pray a lot, and I think that it helps me feel safe and secure to be like, I can then proceed to make the quote unquote right decision.
mm-hmm.
Instead of constantly like wondering like, oh, am I going to do something wrong? I feel like it helps me to realize it's okay if I do wrong, because I can then like I can then feel right about my wrong. if that
No,
makes
that
sense.
makes sense. Like, because, you can't, there's nothing really you can do about past Bree's actions, right? But you can
Yeah,
always think about them and try to fix them for the future.
yeah, exactly. So I definitely ask for a lot of light. Like even after I've committed said wrongdoing, I will then ask for to be brought into a better mind frame to be able to proceed to make better decisions in the long run.
Yeah.
Do you think it has a lot to do with intent then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Right. So
intent.
you don't intend to do wrong, but obviously you're human. You're going to make mistakes. And I think mistakes are how we learn as well. Because if you don't make any mistakes, how are you going to learn from them?
No, exactly.
Sometimes you need to do the wrong thing to know what the right thing actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense to me as well. And if you're actively, if you have this relationship with God or higher power, and you are sort of stating your intent to Him is not to do wrong, I can definitely understand why you would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't like hold myself to a standard that like, oh my God, you can't make a wrong decision because like you said, yeah, we are all human, so there's only so much you can do. Like you can control yourself, but essentially there are other things in your surroundings, the people that you are with that you
Mm.
can't control that sometimes ultimately have an effect on the way you might do something.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think some people get the wrong idea about it a little bit because we all do have like an internal sense of right and wrong. But at the same time, sometimes your internal sense of right and wrong is not correct. Like sometimes you might feel like something feels wrong or yucky, but if you think about it, if you try to actually look at the evidence, it turns out it's really not. I think a good example of that is a lot of people oppose homosexuality and messing with your gender on like a it feels icky level, and so they think that there's some kind of moral obligation there, but the truth is that there's not, right? So I think
Absolutely.
it's always important to be examining those things because we are all subject to that bias. We're all
Absolutely.
subject to thinking like, well, it feels yucky to me, so it must be wrong, but that's just not reality. Just
Yeah.
because it feels yucky to you is not what makes something wrong.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
reminds me of something my husband was saying the other day, actually, that they did a study, and people were asked to rate themselves how good of a person they are out of 10, and everybody rated themselves above 5.
Well, of
They had
course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're always
Naturally.
trying. You're always trying.
Yeah, I mean, a good percentage of people, like you said, don't intend to make these wrong decisions. So essentially, they release the ownership of making the wrong decision to be like, oh, well, I wanted to do the right thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think
And
the
people
most,
who do bad things, that they have their own justification for it. They're not going to know or feel that they're doing bad things, and
right.
you know,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think that praying has always been like a safety fallback for me to feel
Hmm.
like I can make these wrong decisions, but still know that like somewhere there will be a right decision.
Hmm.
definitely. Like Landon says, everyone feels justified in every action they make.
Yeah.
Definitely, it doesn't mean that they're right.
No.
Absolutely. And I think like if for anybody listening that feels like, a prayer doesn't work because I don't believe in a higher power or anything like that. Like I don't believe in a higher power either, but I think you can absolutely just take it as meditation and have very similar effects. Like you don't necessarily have to believe in a higher power or energies or karma or anything to have a meditative session with yourself in your own mind. And I think it is important to take the time to think about those things.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you feel like this isn't going to work for me, maybe try thinking about it as meditation, and it very well might be helpful in regards to incorporating some more ritual into your life.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
exactly. Even if it's like symbolically cleansing via smoke is a practice that's happened for thousands of years. How is that any different of cleansing when you take a shower every night and that's your way to wind
Mm-hmm.
down? There's
Mm-hmm.
common
absolutely.
threads if you look at religion and different cultures. There's so many common threads. Like how is a grimoire any different to like a bullet journal? If you're writing in it and it makes you happy, it relieves anxiety, it makes you feel safe, it does something for you. There are
Mm-hmm.
common threads everywhere.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think like, I mean, even myself, like you can think of yourself as the higher power that you would be asking to, or essentially however you want to see it. Like, it doesn't have to be God, and it doesn't have to be energy or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a good thing, like the way that you were saying, like, oh, obviously everyone's perception of anything is different, and I think that even goes for things like life after death and stuff like that. Like, everyone has their own perceptions, and for me, I believe that, like, in the same way that we do have life, and we all make these different choices, and we all enact upon different things, like praying to God or meditating, etc. I think, like, for me, of course, there's no one way that we could go after this lifetime. I think there's levels of playing fields and energies and etc. out there that, like, we could go to. It just depends on our personal ideas of it.
Mm-hmm.
If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
definitely. Yeah. And
Landon
as
has
you said,
another good a good way to think about it is the faking it till you make it, right? Like a lot of people give that as advice. Like if you really want to do something, just dive in and just start trying it and
yeah,
figure it out as you go along. And I think that's great advice. So
Yeah.
it kind of a fake it till you make it thing I think really works sometimes, especially if you're willing and dedicated to put in the time to learning it, right?
Yeah,
yeah, and
absolutely. Mind over matter.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, it reminds me of um, like manifestation in terms of like visualizing what you want and then attaining it that way. Like I was talking to Karen last week about how I think it was Jim Carrey. He wrote himself a check. I think a
Yeah.
million dollars or something. Popped it in his wallet when he was dirt poor. And obviously today he's got much more than that. And it, to me, um, when I think of like my personal experiences and how I have to be positive in my everyday life to sort of keep on track. That in a sense is, faking it, like putting on a smile and then eventually getting there to that
Yep.
point. Because when you
Absolutely.
have kids, you can't just be wallowing. Like again, drawing the example of my father passing away last year. I couldn't be a wreck around my kids, so you have to sort of fake it until you get there, sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and deal with it in your own time when you have that outlet.
Yep, because it's not fair for your kids to suffer, because you're suffering. So you have to figure out like how to balance that, how to balance your own grieving process with
Yeah,
with
yeah,
what they need, what their needs are.
definitely. And I wish there was an easy way to do it, but it is a struggle. So things like the rituals that I have they make all the difference.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Do we want to segue from that into you sharing kind of your timeline or an experience, Naomi, or Bree? Did you have more that you wanted to say on kind of your piece for this?
No, that's all. I should be popping off soon.
Okay. Well,
You've got
for
work, don't you?
you're welcome to stay on until you have to go. And thank you so much for sharing. I think that your relationship with this stuff was very inspiring and I think really relatable probably to a lot of people that are listening.
Oh, yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I think I will go now just so I don't interrupt later on and let you continue on with how you want to go about this.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bree.
No
All right,
problem. Have a
thanks,
good day.
Bree.
All right. Bye.
Talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye. So yeah, I can dive into my own experiences if you want, or you can go first. I don't mind.
I'll go. I can go ahead and go if you want. So
Go
kind
for
of,
it.
I have a kind of similar story in relation to Bree. Only I'm a little bit older than her, so I've had some more kind of experiences after that. But I was raised in the First United Methodist Church, which is not nearly as strict as Roman Catholic or anything like that, but it does have a similar process of like you're baptized when you're a baby, and then you get confirmed later when you're an adult, right?
Right.
So I was raised in that, and it was very important to my mom that I have, religious experiences as a kid and that I experienced the community of that because she was raised as Catholic. So even though she wasn't into Catholicism anymore, she found it a bit too strict. She still wanted to raise us in a church environment. So that's what I was raised in, and I was very active in my church. I was part of the choir, I was in handbells, I attended Sunday school, I attended like youth trips, like the whole freaking 9 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, but somewhere along the line, and it wasn't like one event, it was like a series of
Mhm.
things that I realized that like I'm here because I like, singing with everybody and I like hanging out, but I don't actually believe this stuff.
So you like the sense of community then,
Yeah, I
as
love the
with it.
sense of community and I love the sense of like this is what we do every Sunday morning and I love the sense of like we on Wednesday was like when you went to go practice for the choir and handbells and stuff and so it was very like patterned and ritualized for me, but it wasn't really something that like I believed in and I slowly realized like during my teenage years that oh these people took it really seriously and
Right.
and me, not taking it seriously was disingenuous.
Yeah.
So I slowly stopped going. But what I found out is as soon as I stopped going to church and like made it very clear that I actually was atheist, like in my heart, and that's how I felt, that I was missing a big part of something that brought me a lot of calmness and joy. So I started taking up like kind of I guess you could say new age things or things that new age people tend to find particularly interesting in regard to like religion and spirituality. So I started getting into astrology, and hence y'all know that I'm super into that, right? Because you've seen like I have that astrology series that I've been doing for this year, which is so funny. There's only a few more videos left to produce for that.
Yeah.
um and y'all are a little over halfway in what you've seen, but I've actually produced all the way up to the Libra video, so that one's been filmed and stuff. So there's only like three more to make, which is just crazy because it's been a year-long project, but like I got super
Yeah.
into
Wow.
that.
I remember you talking to me about the idea that you had for it, and then we had to wait for it, and I was getting so impatient. And now it's kind of crazy how time's just flown by.
I know. Back when I was first planning it, you were like, you're like, where's the Gemini video? I'm like, it's coming, don't you worry. And I think the same
Slow
thing.
down.
Yeah, I think the Marina said the same thing. She's like, where's the Scorpio video? I'm like, don't worry, it's coming when it's Scorpio season. And it still is. Don't worry, that's coming. Um,
Yeah.
so I got super into that. I got super into like tarot. I got super into like past lives. And that became my replacement for it, right? Like when
Yeah.
I was in high school, I even had like a friend's mom who was super into this stuff, like read my natal chart and teach me. Yeah, Sagittarius is at
It's
the
always
end.
a friend of the mom, right?
Isn't it? Isn't it? Like it's like I had this friend and like my friend found out that I was into this and she was like, "Oh, my mom actually knows how to do astrology." And I was like, "What?" So she gave me a very very cheap bless her for doing that, right? Natal chart
Yeah.
reading, and it just exploded from there. Like I realized how much there really was to it and how much I could learn, and my interest just like went straight up, right?
Yeah.
Several years later, when I was like around college age, like I got a past life regression, which was like a really amazing experience. But which I'll talk about just a second. But before I talk about it, I just want to say that I ended up coming to the same conclusion as what I did with Christianity. Like, while all of this stuff was very important to me, and while I really loved it, I didn't actually believe it in my heart, I didn't actually
Yeah.
believe it was real. But the past life regression was probably the last thing that I did that was related to this, and it really, really was a magical experience. Like, it was kind of a guided meditation sort of thing where like they talked about spirit guides and they talked about what your spirit had done in the past. Like it was really like that, you know what I mean? Like it was super like that. But it kind of was like the first time that I had a kind of a guided meditation, and it started teaching me about that. And I realized through that experience that I could still have a lot of these ritual, spiritual, religious experiences without like attaching it to something that I didn't actually think was true. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of grew out of thinking these things were real, and instead just thinking about my life as ritual and as symbols. So to this day, like even though I don't pray anymore, like what I did when I was Christian, I don't believe in, hey, Summer, how's it going? I don't believe in
Hey.
like past lives anymore, like I did when I got that past life regression. But what I do is I still meditate pretty regularly, and I still think about like you know, what's important to me in relation to like if I'm not feeling right, like if I'm not feeling good, like mental health wise or even physical health wise, sometimes I think about like, well, what's happened lately? Like what's happened lately that maybe has disrupted my patterns, you know? And it
Yeah.
can be things like did I go to bed too late? Did I get woken up too early? Did I forget to have my coffee? Have we not been eating well very lately? Like if I as my diet changed, or I think about things like, is it because I've not participated in my hobbies much lately? Like have I not written in a long time and that's the problem? Have I not done any kind of like because like something that always happens to me, I can't stop. Like we're in the middle of a role play right now, and I'm already like inventing more worlds in my head, right? Like I can't freaking stop. But I think about like
Yeah.
have I not done that in a long time, and that's what's disrupting me, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about it now. Is for me, it's really about symbolism and ritual. To me, is really about keeping my current life going in the right ways, and my mental health is like really really dependent on that, on kind of those patterns, and making sure that I'm thinking about keeping up with myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-care and those kind of things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And self-care for me isn't just about like making sure that I chill out and take breaks. I mean it is, right? Like I have a very specific Sunday is my chill out day. I don't do anything productive on Sundays. Sundays is all about just like hanging out. It's about whatever I
Mm.
want to do. It's about doing hobbies. I don't do anything productive on Sundays, and that's really really important to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about stuff like that, like that day of rest. I mean, that came from my Christianity, right? Sunday is the day of rest, but
Right.
but now
Yeah.
it doesn't manifest itself as a honor God day. It manifests itself as like a you know day to make sure that I'm not doing work.
Yeah. So that you're not overloaded and that you'll keep
Mm-hmm.
yourself on
Mm-hmm.
that path. Yeah.
Yep, because I love my work. I mean, I love my YouTube channel. I love this stream. I even love my day job. Like, I'm an instructional designer, right? Basically, and a corporate trainer for my day job, and I freaking love it. So I have to make sure, like, I have to put forth effort at 5 o'clock every day. Log off. Do not keep working. Even if I'm having a lot of fun, even if I'm feeling really inspired, like, log off. Like, that's
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
important because I'll just keep going if I don't, and that's not good.
You'll just burn out, won't you?
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah. So
But
that's
yeah,
that's my
that
history with
reminds me
it.
of that kind of reminds me of Buddhism in a sense that yeah they don't believe in a god in a sense. It's like an atheistic tradition, but they have certain rituals and things. So that
Yeah.
kind of reminded me of that, and of my experiences actually where I'm at today as well.
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot in common in that sense.
Yeah, I think and somebody that actually practices Buddhism can come on and correct us if we're wrong. But the way that I
Yeah.
see it is it's kind of like, it started in India where they're Hindu mostly. And so to me it kind of seems like an atheist reaction to Hinduism, right? Um
Yep.
Whereas I think in a lot of ways, a lot of like the new age kind of like kind of sort of Wicca-ish things that people do, in the U.S. and I think in the U.K. it's the same too. It's kind of like a little bit of an of a reaction. A lot of it is a reaction to the Christianity that that a lot of us are kind of born into, right?
Yeah. Like witchcraft isn't a religion, Wicca is.
Mm-hmm.
So you can identify as a Christian witch, a Hindu witch. You can identify however you like, and still practice witchcraft if that is meaningful to you.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think it definitely is in a way. I think like a lot of things that I have seen on like what witches do is very much similar to like the meditations that I do. It's about
yeah,
visualizing, it's about, like spells to me are really just like fancy prayers. At least from what
yeah.
I've seen.
Like lighting a candle, and lighting it with intent, putting your intent into that candle. It's kind of what we do on birthdays. We light
Yeah,
candles, make a wish, and blow them out.
absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So definitely.
Yeah, so I think that leads us into let's hear about kind of your experiences with symbolism and with ritual
Yeah.
in your life.
So I think it's quite funny because we obviously had Brie on, and she is Catholic, she's a believer, and then we have you that is an atheist, and I think I identify as agnostic,
Mm.
Essentially. So we've got the three kind of main beliefs there.
Yeah, at least for what
Um,
we have in the Western world, I'd say
yeah,
those three are pretty much the most common that you
yeah,
see in our neck of the woods.
yeah. Definitely. So I grew up in Essex in England,
Hmm.
to non-religious parents. My mum was she was Irish Catholic,
Mm.
uh, but she wasn't practicing. She's an atheist still to this day. Whereas my father was Orthodox,
Mm.
Eastern Orthodox, and again he was quite kind of spiritual in some senses, but he wasn't let's go to church, let's pray, let's teach you about all the saints and let's read the Bible, things like that. We didn't do in my house.
It sounds like
So
they were really like more like Catholic from the sense of or Orthodox from the sense of like culturally, but not really spiritually. And
yes,
Landon, by the way, I see your question. I do want to talk about that. So when we get to the part of like, you know, how you can work a lot of this stuff into your writing and into your work, we're gonna touch on that. Landon's question, by the way, for everybody is since working from home now, like we're all doing with COVID, the I need to stop at 5 p.m. is that harder. So we are going to get to that. Don't worry.
yeah.
Go ahead, Naomi.
So yeah, definitely culturally we were Greek, Cypriot,
Hmm.
and we did all of the certain rituals and things like that. But um, that wasn't really rammed down my throat, sort of thing. It was kind of almost like a godless existence. I didn't really know or learn about God or religion outside of religious education at school.
Mm.
Um,
So you had a very
so
academic relationship with God.
yeah, and even then, I don't think I even took it seriously. I don't think I just never believed. I always had my intellect telling me that okay, this kind of was wrong. I just inherently felt like I was questioning it at that age,
Hmm.
um, and then we moved to Cyprus when I was 11 years old. So from going to a society where religion isn't culturally so sort of prevalent in your everyday life to it literally being rammed down my throat every day, all day, everywhere
Wow.
I went. So it was kind of like overload. And don't get me wrong, I loved my childhood. I loved Cyprus. I loved the community that came with all of that. So again, we have similarity there, and I respect the religion, and whatever you want to believe in, as long as it isn't harming others. I'm not going to say anything to you in that
Yeah.
regard. But I just felt like I was kind of overloaded, and I was like a straight A student, and the only thing that I would have was that was negative in my school reports was like, she doesn't pay attention in religious education.
You couldn't be bothered.
I just couldn't. And obviously I kick myself now because I could have learned a lot looking back, but I just couldn't be bothered. It was my chill out session. It was my chill out period.
I mean, I
So
get that because that was a lot of my mom's like internal justification for why she should subject me to religion. Like my dad wasn't religious, that's why I didn't mention him in that story. You know what I mean? A lot of her justification for it was because you kind of have to know about this stuff to be like culturally and media literate
yeah,
in our world. Like if you don't know kind of the either well Greek and Roman mythology is one, and then the other one is Christian mythology. Like if you don't know those things, then you have no idea what's going on in a lot of the media that we produce and consume in this world, at least in the
yeah,
Western world, right?
exactly. So I do kick myself in that regard. I should have been paying attention, at the very least.
Well, it's never too late to learn, right?
Exactly. So I was, I will get to that in a second, but I was quite late out of the gate with that,
Mm.
just because of the feeling, I just overstimulated by it, and almost rebellious. When you're a teenager, and you're
Oh
just like,
yeah.
no, I'm not going to believe in this because everybody else is doing it, or like the school trip is going to a church or the middle of a mountain. No, like, it's not cool just because it's on a mountain, and I
Mm-hmm.
have to climb up in 40-degree heat to visit this church and pray to these icons. I'm not going to do it. But yeah, I do kick the sin.
Rebel Naomi.
Yeah, yeah. But I was saying that I was like the youngest prefect the school had seen, and like, I was like Hermione Granger, and
Hey,
so
Hermione thought that she was a little rebel too, you know, so.
yeah, I wasn't too much of a rebel in that sense, but
That's too funny.
yeah. But then I turned 13, and my best friend passed away suddenly.
Mm.
So I was left after that experience, sort of kind of reaching for something. I didn't want to believe that she was just gone.
Oh, I see.
So that led me into thinking about this stuff again. And, you know, like even astrology and New Age stuff. So I did
Mm-hmm.
sort of a deep dive, and I just really wanted to believe that she wasn't gone. She was still with me, and that, you know, it wasn't the end. And because to give you a bit of context, she was my friend from like age 4. She was like my best friend. We did everything together like a sister.
Oh, wow.
To the point where I would forsake making other friendships because I didn't need anything else.
So she was like
So
the best friend for
yeah,
you.
yeah. And even when I'd moved country, I'd made lots of new friends. I just still felt like there was this gaping hole in my life that I couldn't fill from any of those current friendships I had.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the only way to communicate with her or feel that she was still with me was through spirituality and religion. So, you know, 13 years old, then I started to sort of give it the time of day. And from that, I got into, like I said, astrology and all of this. So yeah, that's when I said I was a truther and a believer. For so many years as a teenager, I would, you know, swear by being a Gemini and things like that. And even today, I still identify, like, you know, I still identify with the key traits of a Gemini because personally, I feel like I exude them. So it's just a way to sort of identify in that sense.
Yeah.
But from there, I sort of had different things happen to me that I couldn't explain. My intellect slowly creeped in through the years. So again, I couldn't believe in God heartedly, no matter how much I wanted to. But like I said, certain things would happen I just couldn't explain. And if anybody else wants to give me rational explanations for them, then please do just pop them in the comments. I've had a series of things happen to me that I just can't explain away. And whereas a lot of other things that have happened to me, I can find rational explanations to them, so I don't sort of give them the time of day. But there are a few things where I just honestly don't know what I've experienced and I can't explain it. So that's why I identify as agnostic, because I just don't think that science can cover literally everything. So for example, after my grandfather passed away, I wasn't asleep, I wasn't dreaming, I was just chilling out in my room, and I could suddenly smell his aftershave. I just didn't know, you know, where it was coming from, or and then I just saw him. I just saw him standing there in across the room, and it scared the hell out of me. I just ran downstairs and told my mum what I'd seen, and I explained to her what he was wearing, and the clothing that I'd described were the exact things that she packed away in his flat that I had never been to and never seen him wear. So that for me sort of opened my mind again to, okay, maybe this stuff kind of, you know, might be real. I might have to reevaluate things. And then I sort of put that on sort of the back shelf until
Yeah.
I was living with my husband. We lived with his family for a few years. They ran a fish and chip shop, and we
Yummy.
lived on. Yeah, oh my god, it was the best. We lived on the back of it, the back and the upstairs, and the stuff that we all experienced in that house were just insane. Like random knocking in the middle of the night, things flying off of the shelves, weird growling sounds. The place would just never be warm. It would just be freezing, no matter who we had in to fix the central heating and things like that. Just never got warm.
Oh,
And um, things like we would come downstairs and the spoons in the kitchen were arranged in a circle. Just really strange things occurred, and that put me on edge again. Like, okay, maybe something's going on. And in the end, we actually had a priest come in to bless the house, and things still did happen, but it wasn't cold all the time. We could actually get heat in the house, so it did improve in that sense.
that's crazy.
Well, it was really crazy. But I think that the main thing that made me question whether science can explain things is my husband was in a car. He was just driving somewhere. I can't remember where he was going. And I was at home and I just had this really bad feeling something was going to happen to him. Just a really, really gut feeling that I needed to warn him about something.
Like just awful vibes.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. I think I was reading or something, and I just picked up the phone and told him, just be careful, just something's going to happen. And he sort of just shrugged me off, but turned the phone off, and not a minute later, somebody was smashing into his window,
Oh my God.
and trying to get into the car, and he'd locked the doors. He didn't sort of give me any validation that he'd taken on board what I said, but he did lock the doors, and was just smashing and trying to get in, and as he locked the doors, he wasn't able to get in.
Jeez.
That's crazy. But then when you look at science and you look at like quantum physics, um, atoms can communicate with each other no matter how far removed they are, and that is how teleportation can occur. I mean, if you look at the Chinese, they're able to teleport information to a satellite into space, and atoms don't exactly have receivers as far as I'm aware. So there are parts of quantum physics that are unexplained. So I do feel like science might not be the be all and end all of the universe in that regard. But I still struggle to this day to identify with like one certain religion or God in a sense. I don't have a personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm agnostic in that sense.
Yeah, I
And
think
it may just be due to the overstimulation that I received when I moved.
yeah, I think when it comes to stuff like that, like we want to explain things, we want to know why, humans are
Yeah.
curious creatures. And so I think when there's stuff that's like beyond our capacity to understand, there is a lot of comfort in saying, well, this is a religious thing, or this is a spiritual thing, or this is, this is a supernatural thing, or whatever. So, I think when we do that, when we say like, well, I can't explain it, I don't know how to explain it, we don't have the technology to explain it or the science to explain it, like we just don't know yet.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes it's mentally healthy to just say like, well, we're just going to chalk this up to some kind of weird supernatural thing,
Yeah.
because that's quite a lot to grapple with, not knowing. So I think that's a lot of where that comes from, and I do think there's a lot that we don't know yet that future people will look back and say like, well, it was stupid that they thought this was caused by ghosts or spirits or whatever. This is
Yeah.
obviously this
Yeah.
other thing that we understand now,
Exactly.
but we don't
Exactly.
necessarily, this isn't something that's like, in the broader conscious currently.
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, gravity, you can't see it, but we know it's there.
Yeah.
We know it exists. So yeah, I'm looking for explanations. I'm open to it. You can debunk my experiences. Like for example, I remember another example. I was working at that hotel,
Oh,
and it was
yeah.
it was a really old building. And they did advertise that it was haunted and all of this.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. They actually had a leaflet that I was supposed to give out and tell guests that, um, this and this ghost is supposed to haunt this floor, and you can see this woman walking through this place. So it was already a spooky vibe. So, and I was on the night shift. I think it was close to the 6 months that I was working there, Mark. And nothing had happened to me there beforehand. I was quite comfortable in that space, but obviously, my intellect is telling me you were already on edge looking for something paranormal to happen.
Yeah, and so then it happens, of course, right?
Yeah. Right.
Bree, I'm so glad you're back. And that it's dead at work. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Love that for you.
Yes.
But yeah, so I was sitting there on the night shift, probably role playing with you because you're in
Probably.
Ireland.
I mean, at that, I very much remember you having that job and staying up much later than what made sense in the UK, and
Yeah.
us role playing on Tumblr.
Yeah, we did that.
And in the
But
Google
then,
Docs.
yeah. And then I was paid to do that, so it was the best job ever.
Oh yeah,
Haunted house or not, I was sitting there and role playing with you
it was wonderful.
and getting paid for it. But
Bree remembers the hotel too.
I was just sitting there behind the desk, and I just padlocked this huge door, this huge wooden door, closed, and there was no draft behind it coming through or anything like that. None of the windows were open, and that was the end of the building. There was nothing behind it, nothing that could have affected it that I know of. But obviously, there might be an answer out there that knows physics or architecture can do. But the padlock on the bottom of the door started to rattle repeatedly.
Oh my gosh.
And I was looking at it doing it, and I kind of had that moment afterwards where I was like, "It just happened. That didn't just happen.
Let's pretend we didn't see it, right?
Yeah, I was just imagining it. I'm tired, maybe, stuff like that. But it still does creep me out to this day. I can still hear it and see it happening in front of me. But yeah, maybe it was I don't know, movement on another floor. Could it have come vibration through the walls? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was huge padlock with these heavy, heavy, heavy doors that just never moved. Unless you moved them and forcefully moved them, they didn't move because it was such an old building.
Yeah.
But yeah, that freaked me out. So I'm still kind of open to these kind of things, definitely. Like every time I seem to open myself up to things happen.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I think I'm open to it. I'm open to the vibrations, the energy the universe is giving to me. But on the other hand, my intellect is saying it's because you're looking for these things. So, I'll never know, but I'm definitely open to it. I'm definitely agnostic in that sense, that I would never tell someone their personal experiences were something else.
Right.
When I can't give you the answer.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's something to be said for showing other people grace that, like, you don't always know what they're experiencing or why. And sometimes, like, because I think we want to know why so badly, sometimes I think it's important for people's mental health to, to have some kind of religious or spiritual beliefs, even though I don't think they're correct. And I think that, that's not something that I can do. And I know some people will make the argument, like, so I'll just get ahead of this in case anybody wants to make this argument that, like, yeah, but like institutional religion does all these evil things and therefore we should push for atheism, da 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 da. Like, yeah, but like that's the structure. That's like the structure of religion. That's not having spiritual beliefs or having a personal relationship with God.
Exactly.
So, so that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, and again, it's like,
oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that.
Attacking the establishment, not the individual. Like,
right.
It's not going to do anything. Going after somebody on Facebook, on Tumblr, on Discord is not going to change the world, sadly. It's not going to change their opinion if you're attacking them either.
It's absolutely not.
Let's be honest. Unless somebody comes to you, wanting that debate and saying, change my mind, that you're not going to change their mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have that conversation with somebody unless they opened it up and made it clear that they wanted to have that conversation, Yeah. Not my place, not useful.
No, it's just a waste of breath, a waste of time.
Yep, it really is.
So yeah, I think that ends it for experiences, unless Landon wants to jump on and talk about hers.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to talk about how this works in roleplay, because I mean, even though this stream is a lot more about like hanging out and us and stuff like that, I do want to make sure that we still have some, role play and writing advice in there, right?
Yeah.
So
about 5 minutes till we're due to hop on to the next topic.
Okay, fair enough. If we have time. Yeah, I think we have time. I think we have a few minutes, Landon. If you want to hop on and talk about it for a few minutes, I think that's fine. we have a little bit of time, I think, before we wanted to get into some of the writing and role play stuff. Oh, I think that's just her because I heard myself echo. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, sorry, I messed things up there for a second because
Oh, you're good.
speaker and then went in and things double repeated. Anyway, hi.
Hey.
How are you feeling?
Still wallowing in self-pity, but it's fine. I don't have to be human until Monday.
I'm so sorry. I feel so bad because you were looking so forward to this vacation. So for you guys that don't know, Landon had a little fall and messed up her ankle, right? Your ankle. And
Yeah.
so that's why she's able to be here a little bit today.
Yes. So at least there's some positivity is that I get to hang out with you guys on this wonderful Saturday rather than, wallowing in self-misery. Anyway, very, very quickly, very short experience. I was raised Unitarian Universalist, which is not a real religion.
I was about to say, what is that? I've never heard of it.
So it's basically agnostic.
Okay.
It's a church community that is here in the United States, based off of the idea that you are allowed to believe whatever the heck you want to believe, as long as you grant me the grace of being able to believe whatever I want to believe.
Oh, we have
So,
that we have some churches that are like that. We call them
yeah.
non-denominational Christian churches. They're like Christian asterisk basically.
Okay. So these are not nearly, they don't fall under the Christian. Basically, my Sunday schools were spent studying other religions. There was an entire year
Wow.
that I studied Native American religions, and we
Oh.
actually ended up going to the Navajo reservations and spending a week studying and practicing what they were practicing. I went
Wow.
to another year. We spent every Sunday at a different church, from everything from Protestant to Buddhism. And we'd study each of these religions. Uh,
Oh.
yeah, so it was a really interesting look into the idea of what is religion and what really connects us all. Basically, this idea of spirit of community, of not knowing what the real answer is, and basically that.
Sounds
So
fantastic.
it was great, and I loved it, and it gave me the insight to be able to sit there and be like, I don't know what the fuck the answer is, so
Ah.
I'm not going to assume anybody knows what the answer is.
Yeah.
I love that. I had no idea that there was something that could expose you to that at such a young age, because I had to kind of come to that on my own, right? Like when we talked about kind of my experiences, that was not something that was presented to me as a valid worldview until I was later on in my teenage years.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting way of being able to open up. It's just really open, and the entire church super pro gay, pro, they're transgender. They're overall really liberal. So being able to have basically the best of the world that you said you were missing, was like that community aspect, but
Yeah.
also having the freedom to believe whatever you want. It was a really great community, and a part of me misses being able to go to that community. But once I grew up, I stopped attending church. I didn't find any comfort in the ritual or community of it, but I know a lot of people do.
Mm,
So it is nice to know that that is an option for people who are questioning or still trying to find out or want to have that community sense. So,
I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
lovely.
but where I stand now is I am very much in line with Naomi. I have had some uh, freaky experiences as far as like ghosts, as well as past life stuff. I'm into tarot, very much like you are, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Horoscopes, you guys are turning me on to to all of that. You're a
Landon
very
was
close
not a
person,
zodiac person, but we've kind of converted her, I feel like, at this
very
point.
much so.
Yeah.
And the more birth chart stuff I get, the more I'm just like, how is this so accurate?
That's how I
You
feel
sound like
about it. That's how I feel about it. Like there's something to it, right? There's something to like the time of your birth.
yeah.
I don't think the stars know, but there's something about like the time of your birth that is meaningful in some way.
Yeah.
Like I really
It was
believe that.
it was so funny though when we were having the discussion about horoscopes in our RP Discord. Um, After that, I gave you guys a meme. Do you remember that push the button?
Yeah.
Which button
Yeah.
to push? And it was so funny. The Sagittarius wanted to fly. The Leo wanted to become a cult leader.
Yep.
The Gemini wanted to multitask. The Virgo didn't know what to choose because she wanted the perfect button.
Ah, that did happen. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah,
And
what?
Scorpio wanted to know what other people were thinking.
Yeah, well, I can't remember I think I chose the animal one because I thought it was the most
Yes.
versatile.
Yes.
And I'm a Cancer with a Virgo rising, by the way. A lot of people can't even see the Cancer because the Virgo rising is so prominent.
Yes.
But yeah,
But
I
it's
think
also very Cancerian of you to be sort of sensitive to animals like that.
I love animal stuff. You know, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool. We'll talk about that when we
So
get to the writing part.
that's so on brand for you. But it really did make me laugh that everybody was just reinforcing what we were talking about, star signs and horoscopes.
So
The
funny.
older I get, the more I realize I just am a Sagittarius, and I need to accept it.
You're the most Sagittarius to ever live. Like,
It's true.
It is really
Um,
true.
it's so funny.
It's fine. I'm just a perfect example. Good at everything. Anyway, so basically, that is where I stand. I don't really necessarily do the rituals of things. I'm not great at meditating. I also suck at being able to like stick to something. So I was doing tarot every day, which I really enjoyed, and then COVID hit, and then every day turned into the same day. So I was
Mm.
just like, "What's the point?"
Yeah.
So,
But it
but
would be. I think it would be good if you was to start a couple of different rituals that might actually help day to day if you're feeling bad.
Yeah.
I mean, probably.
Like I know
You just have to pick it.
one that we talked about. I don't know if Marina's still in the chat, but Marina, if you are, I'm gonna talk about you for just a quick hot second. I know in one conversation we landed on like that you should start a gratitude journal, and Marina had a ton of success with that, with just adding a little bit of time to work on her gratitude journal every so often. You know, and I don't know if you're still keeping up with that, but yeah, like stuff like that I think is so important and so helpful.
Yeah, I think having any sort of ritualized feeling is whether it be a gratitude journal or meditation or taking a shower every day or anything like that is so incredibly important for the psyche.
Yeah.
And being able to be like, oh, this is, I mean, when we get into habits, being able to sit there and be like, this is what I do when I wake up. I brush my teeth, I take a shower, I put on makeup, or this
Yep.
is what I do to go to sleep is I journal, I do this, I do that. That is so incredibly important for people's mental health.
Yep.
So
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Marina,
think and I think that kind of segues into some of the writing advice that I wanted to give today. Like I have we get this question a lot in the cafe of like I've lost inspiration, what do I do? And one of the major things that I recommend, and it's in my Lost Inspiration video, and I say it to people all the time, but it's have a habit. Pick a time that's like, I write at this time every day. And you don't have to do a lot, just a little bit, but just have it ritualized at the same time every day. And that a lot of times is like, for a lot of people, that's all it takes. The reason why they're really struggling a lot of times is because they kind of like, let the muse take them, right? They only do things when they kind of feel like it or they get inspired to. And that to me is like a really quick way to make sure that you don't do things, you know, because it's like it's making sure that if you don't have a very specific like feeling that's very fleeting then you're just not going to do what it is you want to do. So that I think when it comes to like the writing advice, that's like a huge part of it for me, is having a certain time that you write, a certain frequency that you write. And I have been failing at it lately, but because somehow among this COVID crap, I don't know how this happened, but somehow I contracted a sinus infection. Mysteries abound because I have barely left the house, but somehow it happened. So I've been like too tired. But usually my writing time is to do a little bit of writing after work, right? And so long as I keep to do that, then I will write regularly and be happy with it, you know. But if I don't, like if I do something else, or if like I skip too many days in a row, then it can be a real struggle to pick that writing back up again. And
Yeah.
that's something that I've definitely found. And I think that, you know, for the people that I know that I've given that advice that have tried it, like it really, really works. Ritualizing your writing really, really works to make you actually keep getting writing done when you're not feeling super inspired to do so.
Yeah, it does help, like that blank page syndrome kind of thing. Like you just keep
Mm-hmm.
staring at the blank page, but once you start putting something down, it gets easier and easier.
Mm-hmm.
So just one reply a day would just lead to more. I feel like.
Yeah, usually it does. It's usually hard to just do one. Usually you end up doing like two or
Yeah.
three at least, you
Well,
know?
yeah, starting is always the hardest part of an issue, right? Is
Yep.
that, at least for me in my experience, whenever I've lost muse, it's always because I'm getting stuck on something, or I'm scared to start,
Yep.
or for whatever reason, things aren't just flowing. And as soon as I pick up the pen, as soon as I make that first response can suck,
Yep.
Mm.
but
But
the
then they
ones
get
after
better.
that get better.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
at least then you've done something, instead of sitting there and circling and keeping up the cycle of not doing anything.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
And
So
I
I
think,
really like that advice of a certain time to write. I know for a lot of people, even outside of RP, that is like in my writing circle and stuff like that, are very regimented with that, as far as like 8 o'clock is the time I write.
yep.
I wish I could have that, but like 8 o'clock, my baby is just not gonna play ball.
Yeah, I mean, you have tiny little humans demanding your
Yeah.
attention, so it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
But
My husband.
I don't even think like you have to keep to it 100%. You just have to always make the effort to keep to it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sometimes stuff gets in the way and you don't get to do your ritual, but you try again the next day, you know?
Yeah, or even if it's, you write the sentence today I wrote, it's not an incorrect sentence. You wrote today. You wrote that sentence, and that kept the lit ritual.
Yep.
And that could be something that does help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I
But,
think that having rituals when it comes to character creation can help as well.
mm,
Yeah. I think that character creation is required for role play, right? It's required for pretty much any writing. There's very few things that you can write that don't require you to create some kind of characters, right? And I know a lot of people struggle. They want their characters to be realistic. They want their characters, you know, to be indicative of the times. They want to make their characters, you know, something that they can be proud of. And so it can be really hard to craft a character because I don't know. I'm sure you guys experience this, but when it comes to crafting characters, once you kind of get started on them, they sort of take on a life of their own. So it can be really intimidating to start that planning process. Really,
Yeah.
really intimidating to start that planning process because once you start, like they are what they are, and then it's kind of too late, right?
I'm
Yeah.
So,
Just
I'm
just to
curious.
jump in. Sorry, guys.
oh, you're good.
My youngest needs a feed, so if you hear the baby, that's just her. If she starts to cry, I'll
Hey,
Okay,
Lizzie.
back in. That
I'm
time, so.
I'm curious for you guys. What does that ritual look like when you're starting to write a character for you guys? What do you do?
So most of my characters are based off of something. I have very few like true what I would call OCs. Most of my characters are based on some kind of canon material, or they're inspired from some kind of canon material, or even they're just mentioned in something. Like I have very few characters that are truly original characters.
Mhm.
But regardless, whenever I see something that inspires me for a character, one of the first things that I do is start to dissect exactly what I want that character to be. Like, what is the point of that character? And an easy way for me is to kind of look at tropes. So I know a lot of times nowadays, like with nitpicks and stuff like that, we feel like tropes are bad, but they're not bad, they're tools. So when I am looking at different tropes, I'm thinking about like, what do I really want to say with this character, and what tools lend to saying what I want to say. And so, for example, when it comes to Abby, right? Abby is a character that is all about metamorphosis, right? Like
Yep.
she is all about extreme ideologies being pushed and how that affects her as a person. So when it comes to Abby, that's what I'm always looking for. And so I think about things that are like, okay, well, what really is kind of at the core of that. So I'll think about, is there a certain animal that I can kind of relate that to? Like we have butterflies a lot when it comes to Abby, right? Which is actually what you came up with, but it's definitely become a big Abby thing. I think about, what astrological signs might they have in like their rising placement, in their sun placement, or in their moon, because that, if you pick those three, you can get a really well-rounded view of what a character is like, because that dictates like how they tend to look to other people. That dictates what their core is, and it also dictates like their inner world. So you can pick those three things. Let me actually double check before I speak wrong on what I have for Abby, because I do have it written down somewhere.
Such a nerd.
I know, right? I have too many characters. I can't keep up if I don't write some things down. So let me just double check real quick before I speak on that.
Yeah, she
And there's
definitely
other
has to go.
yeah, and there's other things that I picked too. Like, okay, here's the document. It's loading up now. Let me scroll down to Abby so I'll tell you guys. Okay, so things that I have for Abby is I have like she's a Pisces sun, she's an Aries moon, and she's a Virgo rising. I'll also pick like specific traits that I think embody her. So some of her positive traits are original, enthusiastic, and analytic, and three of her negative traits are she is private, condescending, and wishy-washy, right? I'll also pick things like favorite foods, what kind of drinks she likes, what kind of color I associate with her. Like I associate pink with Abby a lot. What kind of element I might associate with her. Like for Abby, a lot of times it's all about fire. When I set these symbols, the reason why I set them very early on is because it's something very easy for me to refer back to as I actually start crafting that character. Like as I actually start thinking about like what their history likely is, what their personality is like, what I'm doing with that character. If I have those tropes and symbols to refer back to, I can always be like, is this character doing what I wanted them to do? Are they going off the rails? Are they becoming something that wasn't my original intention, and am I okay with that? So when it comes to character creation, I think picking out a few tropes that you find really interesting and then starting to craft symbols is a really great, easy way to get started with that. That's not too heavy on the commitment yet, and kind of really gets the creative juices flowing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Naomi, do you have a ritual of sorts when you're character creating?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me it starts with a face claim.
Mm.
Oh yeah, a lot of people do it that way.
Yeah, because in my mind it's like when an actor says they think about the shoes, what kind of shoes the character would be wearing. I've got to see, their costume. I've got to see their face. I've got to see, what kind of mannerisms they might put forward. And once I have the right face, the right body, then I can kind of see where I want to go with like motivation, which is the next step.
Mm.
And then once I have sort of face and motivation, I'm kind of good to write the bio and start role playing. Because for me, I think the astrological signs come a bit later. I generally pick the sun sign so that I kind of know where I'm going with motivations and how they react. But then after I've delved in a little bit, then I decide the moon and the rising, and that sort of helps me keep on track with how they would react to things and certain scenarios.
Mm.
Mm.
I think the only character that I've delved into for more than just the main three, the sun, moon, and the rising, is Lucian, where I did like 8 of his charts. I went freaking insane with his and his whole chart.
It's because it was beautifully perfect.
Yeah, he was so good though. He was so good.
I'm quite kind of proud of him. I really love him.
He'll have to come back someday for real.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, definitely. I miss him and Cass so much. But
there will
yeah,
be a return.
definitely. So yeah, like I had like he was a Cancer sun, he was a Scorpio moon, he was a Capricorn rising. Because he had that like serious workaholic, like doesn't come out of the library kind of like he
So
whipping his
problematic,
shape.
Lucian.
Oh my god, he's like problematic. Just if you looked it up in the dictionary, Lucian would be there. The most problematic character I've had apart from Damien, and I think Landon's to blame, which is the common denominator there.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Too funny.
But yeah, that's it for me. So what about you, Landon?
For me, I go full on writing crazy, and I have a conversation, like an out loud verbal conversation with my characters. Typically, it comes after a face claim because it's face claims that you sit there and I go, oh, this is how this person would talk.
Mm.
And then from there, I can ask and almost interview a character. And sometimes I write it down. Sometimes it's just a conversation that happens in the shower. I've always joked that in my head, what my inner world looks like is a bar. And then when I'm writing, I'm the bartender, and whoever I'm writing as is the one I'm pouring a drink and listening to their issues. So it kind of
I love
has,
that.
yeah, it kind of has that similar feeling, and that way I can figure out how they talk. I figure out all of these like in-depth sort of ways and mannerisms that they have, and then I can dig deeper, and during this interview, quote unquote, I can kind of suss out who they are. And then also I think that leaves room for me to discover more later on, which I feel like I'm kind of famous for, when I'm like, oh, I didn't know my character has this traumatic thing happen in their past.
Yeah, sometimes they tell you, right?
God damn you for not telling me everything and disclosing everything in the police interview when I first met you. So yeah, that's kind of my ritual, is this verbal conversation that I have with them.
So I definitely do like that interview thing. Like I do that, but I don't do that until after I've established what I feel is like the core and the main points in their history. So I think that's so funny. So like I'm doing that, but just at a totally different point in time. And for those of you that that are kind of like feeling that method, hang on, I'm looking over here. I think it's over here. I actually wrote a book that is for that interview method. Let me show that.
It's a great book. Everyone should buy it. It's on Amazon. I'm promoting it while she grabs it.
Yeah, it's not over there. Hang on, let me look in the other spot it might be.
That's so rude. But hopefully maybe there's going to be another one coming. I know that she hinted about that. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. I'm actually saying things so that she's now obligated to produce another book.
She needs to write another book.
Okay, so this is the book. This is the author copy. That's why it says not for resale. And I know that the cover is not very good. I need to redesign it, but I put this together because I didn't have the time to hire a graphic designer cover, right? But this is essentially what it is. Like it's literally this interview method. Like it's just a journal where every day it's a question, right? What it is that that you feel like is important for that question. And I really do love this method for getting a character that's fully fleshed out. Like, I don't necessarily believe you need to do something like this for, like, your side characters or whatever. But when we're talking about, like, your main characters of your story, like, or characters that you plan on role-playing for several years, then I think doing some of these question exercises is really critical in sussing out kind of the how your character really acts. I know that kind of goes off topic of symbolism and ritual, but yeah, you mentioned it, so I thought it was important to say. If this interests you and you want some help, I've got a resource for you.
Perfect. And well, I think you had your headphones off, but I was saying that I said that you might be writing something else along with it, but I was mostly saying that because now I'm forcing you to write something else. This book is so good. I'm in the process of making a world building one. It's just that characters are a lot easier than entire worlds. So it's taking a lot longer to actually get all my ideas together, you know, in addition to keeping up with my day job and everything else that I'm doing. Right. So it's very much a back burner project. But someday we will also have a world building book. Yeah.
Yay.
Okay. So what other aspects is ritual and symbolism important in writing and RPing?
So I would say in addition to character creation and kind of like finding times to role play. Naomi, I know we wanted to talk about this a little bit, but I think it's also in just the act of writing. Like there are just certain motifs that come up over and over when you're writing certain characters, and I think you had a couple good examples when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I realized that Lucian was very much defined by like a relationship with blood.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Lucian and Cassandra, that was that was a motif that came up a lot, as well as birds. I mean, the bird motif was just something that symbolized her, essentially her and her innocence. And there was a scene where, to begin with, he spotted her climbing a tree in order to save a wounded bird. And what he ended up doing was tricking her with his illusion magic into believing that he'd killed the bird. He had no healing magic whatsoever, but he tricked her into thinking he healed it, and the bird flew off. But he crushed the bird.
Oh, you cut out a little bit. Oh, I think we might have lost Naomi. Well, I'll finish that story because I remember what happened. So he had taken the bird. He tricked her into thinking that he had healed it, but the reality was he had actually killed that bird because it was injured and beyond his ability to save, because he didn't have any sort of magic that could have helped it, and there wasn't enough time to take it back to town. But he didn't want Cassandra to know that.
Yeah, and so she was the bird. He ends up killing her in a lot of different ways, and she ended up a completely different person due to the abuse that she suffered, and it changed her, and she grew magically because of it as well. She had the ability to see through illusions at the end of it because her mind was so barraged with illusion magic all the time.
Yep.
It's like a defense mechanism. But that bird motif, I just think that it kind of elevates your writing to a degree, because I'm just so proud of what we did there.
It was wonderfully not planned too.
Yeah.
And I think when you have symbols like that, what's really cool about them is that they don't necessarily have to mean anything other than what you say they mean, right? Those are the sorts of symbols that are built through the narrative itself. So it's like the narrative is dictating this is what birds mean. And so every time birds come up, what you're doing is you're really talking about those past things that happened within the narrative. You're not talking about birds in the greater, symbolic language. So that's something that I think is really cool with symbols like that you can do, is not worry about like what everyone else thinks they mean, but really just focusing on what they mean in the context of this particular narrative.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Abby and Rab did that too, especially with him calling her Papillon butterfly, and it kind of enforced that change and metamorphosis in her too.
It did.
That I'm going to be the thing that forces you to change.
Yeah.
So it is, I think, a beautiful ability for a writer to create their own symbols and be able to have these motifs that they can refer back to. And create within their own lore.
Yeah.
And you can see it in TV and books as well, published work. The one thing that I sort of, it came to me off the top of my head would be like the direwolves and the Stark children.
Oh, yeah.
The direwolf that they found in the first episode or in the first book was impaled by a stag, and wolves were House Stark, stags were House Baratheon, and that's kind of foreshadowing what happens later on.
Yep.
And then each of the pups obviously have meaning and symbolism as to what happens to each of the Stark kids. So it happens. I think it gives your writing just elevation. It takes it to another level, and obviously not every piece of writing is going to call for it, not every role play is going to call for it, but I think that it's important to maybe consider for pieces that you're putting a little bit more effort into. I think it'd be a great way to elevate the work.
And I'm glad that you used the direwolves from House Stark as an example, because I think that's a good example of one that's incredibly obvious. Like, it was obvious when it happened. That's what they were doing, and like, nobody was fooled. Like, the dogs were a symbol. So I think that's another thing, is the symbolism that you use in your writing does not have to be like subtle. Like it can be super obvious and still be really effective. And even to the point that I think that, you know, trying to make it too subtle can sometimes be can be like detrimental to your writing, because you know what you're trying to say, but the person that's reading it doesn't necessarily know what you're trying to say, right? So something that seems like super, super obvious to you might seem kind of clever to them. And even if it does seem obvious to them, it's always going to seem more obvious to you who wrote it. So, so in that way, I think, you know, when you're using symbolism and stuff like that, it's very important to let yourself be a bit free with it. It doesn't have to be like this grand, super amazing, clever thing to be effective and good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want I at least personally don't want anyone reading my RPs and my writing and feeling like they're in a ninth grade, 12th grade English class,
Yeah,
having to like
absolutely.
search things out.
Definitely, it
I
should be fun rather than, okay, what does this mean in relation to this?
Mm-hmm.
and I want people to get the point. Like sometimes
Yeah.
as Karen was saying, the obvious thing is probably the best thing for it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, making someone work hard for answers just because you think it is clever isn't going to work out in your favor.
Yeah. A lot of times it's
Yeah.
not.
It's
It's
kind of
going to
why
be
I
the
was
simple.
more proud of sort of the work with Lucian, because I feel like it was kind of obvious that his inspiration came from Dr. Frankenstein, because he was trying to revive the dead.
Yep.
And he was kind of an emotional vampire. So then we had blood, and his relationship with Cassandra was kind of like an allegory to Hades and Persephone. I feel like that was
Yeah.
fairly obvious, and you could follow along.
Yeah, it was very obvious, but it was very good. You know, like
Yeah.
I think that obviousness made it accessible and made it easy, especially reading, you know, as somebody that was reading it, like, and not directly participating in it quite as much. Um, you know, I'm just reading along, right? Like I'm not having these conversations where we're talking about why we're doing this or that or whatever, or what the plans are for what's coming next. So, you know, you appreciate being able to kind of like read along and get it, and not feel like you have a lot of digging to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also kind of want to say that if you do feel like if something does give you joy, that there have been plenty of symbols that I have laid for months before anything has happened, and foreshadowing that I have planned out to a T that nobody picked up on.
Yeah, it happens
Um,
sometimes. It happens sometimes, and
but
it's
if it
sad,
brings
but
but if it brings you joy and you're just like, I am so damn proud of that writing, and it's fine if no one recognized it, that's okay too. Again,
Yeah.
this style of writing is for you and your partner. It's not necessarily for mass consumption. You don't like focus your writing and why you're doing it on what the mass people think.
yeah, I
Just
think
so that you don't have to work that hard. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things that makes role playing so chill and so much easier for a lot of us. I know I definitely feel that, because I'm just writing for that one person. It's so much easier, right? Like trying to write for a larger audience is much, much more difficult. So not having to think about that is a blessing in role play.
Yes.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And while we have a couple of more minutes, do we want to delve into this in regards to world building?
Yes. Okay. So this is something that I definitely do. Magic Reborn that we made. I mean, it had a literal wall that separated the town from the rest of the clans around them. Like, if it wasn't super obvious that I was talking about, you know, all of the talk at that time going on about build a wall, like, here you go. That's what it was. Like, I think it was super obvious, but it was kind of, it was my way of trying to like, as looking at that narrative and being exposed to that narrative and being so disturbed by that narrative and trying to like reclaim it somewhat into something that was comfortable and something that I
Safe,
could,
yeah.
yeah, something safe that's like, it's just fiction, you know, and I could explore that. And that role play really did turn into a lot of things that we're facing in real life. You know, our villain was a fascist dictator. That was the main villain of that role play, and there was like this a little Antifa group that happened kind of naturally. I didn't plan it. Like somebody came up with that and started that, right? I just really laid the groundwork and put those symbols in, and all of my players just were like, they saw it and they said, okay, we're gonna do this then. and it was very obvious to me that they were picking up on those things I was putting down, right? And all of my role plays pretty much in the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years that I've built have been like that. Not every single role play ever, but the past several that I've made have been responses to things that I'm either experiencing in reality or things that I see the world going through, or things like that. Like, miss me if my next role play isn't about the pandemic. It's gonna be like I can't help myself. So it's just
Oh,
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and there's no way to avoid
no,
it.
it just, I know what that's about so bad now.
Well, I mean, as you know, like I'm always building worlds, right? I'm always world building, and
Oh, yeah.
so the next one, like, there's a draft form of it. No, you can't see it yet.
Damn it.
But like I know that even if what I eventually end up showing you when we get to that point is totally different than what I have in my notes right now, I know that there's still going to be something in there that's related to what we're experiencing right now. There's no way that it won't be, because that's the only way I know how to write, is to take what's happening to me and what has happened to me and what I've experienced in my world and in my life, and apply it to the creative endeavors that I'm going through. And world building for role play is a major creative outlet for me. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it, and it's probably going to be like that forever and ever. And you're never going to escape it. There's always going to be these very obvious real life corollaries in the worlds that I make.
Well, isn't that like the first rule of writing is write what you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it makes sense. Like to pull and have symbolism, and every single writer in all of history has done that. I mean, we can pull the most famous writer of all time and be like Shakespeare. Shakespeare actively made most of his money making fun of the monarchy at that point in time. He just said that it took place somewhere else.
Right, like
Um,
what he was, because the monarchy was funding him, right? So he had to do his like little light ribbing by saying, "This
yeah,
is the Spanish monarchy," or "This is the Scottish monarchy," or whatever.
exactly. So
Oh,
yeah,
thank you, Marina.
I love that though. I love that you said that you've taken something that you're quite perturbed by. You were disturbed by it, and you've taken it and almost kind of maybe written out your trauma in a way that is satisfying to you, which is something that we've touched on in other videos. I feel like
Right,
that's a
a
nice
hundred
example of
percent.
that.
100%, because in Magic Reborn we got to kill the fascist, right? Like,
We
so
did.
so that was nice. You
finally.
know. So yeah, absolutely. And I think that Atlantis is like that too. Like the core of Atlantis, when y'all said you wanted a mob role play, like I knew what that was going to be. That was going to be, let me talk about how awful capitalism is, and how it's destroying all
Yeah.
of us, and how everything it touches turns to ruin eventually, no matter what you
Yeah.
do, right?
Well, and then
So that's
also,
Atlantis.
yeah, and these two parties divided by a symbol.
Hmm.
Like that's also the other thing that's happening there too, is that you can see the political divide happening within the city,
Yeah.
which is a huge part of what's happening, at least here in the United States as well.
Yeah, you got your Coke
So,
versus your Pepsi, right? So of
yeah,
course that's what Atlantis is about. It's a lot about that, and it is a very empowering thing for me to take something, turn it into something that's happened in reality, turn it into a symbol, and then put it into a fictional setting where it can be safe and messed with and process my thoughts on it.
Absolutely. Yep.
it's artwork.
Yeah. So I think it's a good time now, if you have nothing further to add, to finish off.
Yeah. Did you have a world building comment before we do that? We can go a little bit past too, because I think you had a world building comment that you wanted to get to. So maybe we do that, and then we do whatever final article or fun thing that we want to talk about for the end. Um, but I want to hear your world building stuff, that because you had some good comments on that earlier when we talked about what we were going to talk about today.
Yeah, like I wanted to give Kendra some credit as well for the world building that she did in Magic. I really loved the weddings that we had.
Yes.
Again, because the blood motif and the symbolism that I had going on with Lucian and Cassandra. Um, Essentially, when people were married, they had this ritual that would make them become one blood. And I just found that just so fascinating, how everybody interpreted that a little bit differently, I feel like.
Yeah.
So we had like I think one married couple felt when the connection was made, and it was more of a physical manifestation. And we've had more of a spiritual sense as well. So we've had quite a few weddings
We did.
in that role play.
It's
And
because the wedding lore was so good. Like we all wanted to do it.
Well, and we also knew that if the wedding happened, bad things happened, and we all liked that bad things happened.
Right, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we're all just pretending that we're writers for CW, so it's like incredibly ridiculously dramatic all the time for us.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was funny because blood was essentially his final step of the journey into his necromancy, and Cash tricked him with a bucket of pig's blood.
She
where
did.
She left him to bleed out, because he was the one that had to die. I just yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
That was so good. That scene was so good. Oh, Marina's comment, never forget Lulu getting hit in the face on his wedding day. Never forget.
So much.
He got bitch slapped on his wedding day.
He deserved that so much.
He did.
But
Listen,
he didn't initiate it. He was actually doing nothing at the time, but it was fantastic.
I am an obligated Lucian stan, and therefore I'm just being like, did he really deserve anything that happened to him, even though he was a terrible person?
He deserved all of it. Let's be real.
He was so problematic, but like I didn't intend for that to happen at the beginning. It was like he's supposed to be a bad guy, but like Hades, like Dr. Frankenstein, he wasn't the worst kind of, but he ended up more Dr. Frankenstein when he was a monster, and he created a just such a bad monster in his son.
Yeah.
He definitely grew, and I think as plots grew as well, he grew worse and worse because grief makes people just react so much worse, and there was supposed to be a redemption arc for him, and like coming back to the birds. Their daughter, they were going to have a daughter. They were going to adopt a little girl. Well, Cassandra was, and she was sort of keeping him at arm's length. Like she wasn't going to let him come anywhere near this girl. And she was called Robin, and she was the bird. But he was never allowed to ruin this bird. Like she was going to protect this bird from Lucian no matter what, and he was going to grow and learn through sort of thinking about what happened to his own kids and the decisions he made. Sort of like Dr. Frankenstein, when he sort of isolated himself, and he ended up in so much misfortune because of the choices that he made, because of his pursuit of knowledge over everything else. And like how Mary Shelley wanted to essentially ask the questions, is it worth it? The science that can be achieved by this relentless pursuit of it, is it worth it?
Yeah.
So I wanted that to be the question with Lucian, and for him it really was.
Yeah. Yeah, for him it wasn't. Poor guy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. So I think that gives everybody some really good examples of like both symbolism and ritual when it comes to like how we're using that in everyday life, and then how we basically apply what works in our reality to our writing and to our role play. And this is a topic that is really, it's really near and dear to me, obviously, because I keep working on those Zodiac videos, even though like I don't know if y'all probably don't pay attention, but I do. They don't do so well on my channel, right? But to me, inspiration and symbols are very important, and I know that that's something that a lot of people really struggle with in their writing, is like how to start. And I do think that rituals and symbols are kind of the key to that, right? Those are the keys to that starting energy that's difficult for a lot of people. So I continue to like make that content and have that content available, because I don't want people to be paralyzed from go. Like I want you guys to always be able to at least try what it is that you're trying to do with your writing and with your role play. I think that's really important. But yeah.
Definitely, and you really do encourage us to do that in your role plays. So as an admin, I have to give you props for that. You really do encourage going to you about the things that we achieve, and if you can help us do that, then 100%, you will help us achieve the goals that we want. So.
Yeah, I mean, so long as you make it clear, right? So long as you tell me, like, then we'll make it happen. Whatever has to happen for that. So yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything else to say, like, in closing about that topic before we move on to like our kind of, do we have an article this week? Actually, I should ask that.
We
Do we
do,
have?
yeah.
Okay, good, good. So if y'all want to do closing statements while I kind of get the game saved, and we can do that, and then we'll do our article.
Yeah, definitely. So I just feel like having rituals, having symbolism, having these things that we do that make us feel safe, that even in writing, because writing can be a very anxious experience. If you're joining a new group, if you're doing something you've never delved into before, I really think that if you recognize the rituals that you have and you've had in the past, and just sort of maybe list them out. I'm a big fan of lists. If you list them out, I think that it will ease your anxiety if you are trying new things. And then, like with Karen, if you have an encouraging partner or an admin, to just communicate what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I feel like knowledge of how you work, how you write, and in identifying these rituals that you have will just benefit you so much as a writer.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My final words are especially about symbolism within your writing. This is something that's going to elevate your writing. It is not an automatic requirement to write. And so if it is scary and large and overwhelming, that's okay. You can start small and it can start unnoticed and get bigger with time. It is something that comes with practice, and whether it's a subtle hand or really heavy-handed, any sort of symbolism, giving it a try would be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't have to be Shakespeare right off the bat, right?
And Shakespeare has some pretty terrible symbolisms, especially in his earlier plays. So not
Yeah,
everyone is good at it.
yeah, like he's really overstudied, right? So
Yeah.
like we love some of his really good ones, like we love Hamlet, but that doesn't mean every single one of his plays are good. Some of them literally aren't. So yeah, don't be scared. Not everything you write is going to be awesome, but that's okay because it's all practice. It's all practice until you're writing the things that you really do love and really are proud of.
Yeah.
All right. Good. I like it. Okay, Naomi, can you link our article for today and I'll bring it up and then tell me about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to paste it in. Come on. Not happening.
You can
Uh-oh.
paste it in the Discord if that's easier. And then I'll
Yeah,
pop it in the stream chat.
brilliant. Yeah, I'll do that right now because I'm using my tablet and it is playing ball. So, yeah, here we go. Should be in there now.
I am looking. Where did you put? Oh, you put it in the waiting room
Here,
text.
I
I
got
found it.
Have
I
you got
found it. I found it. Okay, so this is the article. I'll paste it. Oh, thank you, Landon. Okay,
welcome.
so tell us what are we looking at today?
So this gorgeous little chap had an accident, a very unfortunate accident, and he ended up losing his back legs, the use of his back legs when he fell off a bed.
Oh
Um,
no.
But the great thing is, this happened at the end of July in Suffolk in the UK, because I'm a Brit, so you're getting UK news.
Yes.
They, a few of them, decided to get together and fundraise a wheelchair for this little guy, and it was a huge success. And they managed to get him a wheelchair that he was comfortable with and is adjusted with, and now his owners can take him for walks, and he can enjoy the outdoors again. And it makes such a difference to a canine's life. I feel like when they're trapped inside all the time.
Oh, look
So
at him. He's so happy.
it was really heartwarming to see that he could go on his little journeys again. And they ended up raising, I think it was like £800 or something like that. And the wheelchair was only 400, so they had a lot of money left over to support his additional needs as well.
Oh, I love this. I love that their village was able to come together like this and have this happen. You know, I think of my dog, right? She's like a senior. And she does fall off the bed sometimes, like it happens. So, this is definitely a fear, and dogs don't do so well when they can't walk, right? I don't know if you ever encountered a dog that's like really at the end of their life and they don't really get up anymore,
Right.
and they kind of just sleep all the time.
Yeah.
That's something that they really struggle with, like mentally. They want to run around, like that's what dogs do. So this is so sweet that they were able to get this doggy a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But I'm a little jealous. Like I hear 400 pounds for the wheelchair, and I think like God in the U.S. it would be like
Yeah.
1,400 pounds or $1,400.
Absolutely.
So a little bit like, ugh. And I still think 400 pounds is even too much. Like it probably should be a lot less than that. But that's a whole other thing.
So
Yeah.
conversion and stuff like that, we're still talking. It's like $800.
Yeah, like that's
It's so much,
ridiculous. That's
but
ridiculous.
Yeah, it
it's
really is.
it's
It
very
really is. We're
cute.
so fortunate over here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cute, and it's so nice to see a community come together and support its puppers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
I
love
mean,
this
like
happy dog.
in 10 days, they managed to raise £850 for him.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. I got him up on the screen now. Sorry, it took
Yeah.
me a second to get that. There was a lot of other stuff on this page, like in the sidebars and stuff and in the ads that I didn't like. So it took me a second to get that hidden. But here we
He's a
go. Here's the
spaniel.
pup. Here's the pup.
He's a spaniel called Mac. And yeah,
So cute.
I
he's
love
living
it.
his best life again.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so that's our kind of ending for today, right? That's like our nice little fluff story to leave you guys with. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed our talk today. And Landon, I'm so glad that you were actually able to join us in the end. So that was a nice little treat. Wasn't really sure if you were going to be able to.
Thank you
Yeah.
for letting me, invite myself along to this party. I appreciate it.
You're always invited. You're always invited. If
Okay.
you're available, you're invited. Okay, guys. Well, let's go ahead and tell everybody where to find us. So for me, in addition to this stream, which down below you can click on follow to follow us and make sure that you get the updates every time I go live. We typically go live on this show for it's from noon to 2 on Saturdays, and that's Eastern time, and it's any Saturday that I'm available, right? And I typically will have either Landon or Naomi with us helping me manage the things on the back end because I am not talented enough to play a video game and manage all that stuff at the same time. So they help me out quite a lot. And other place that you can find me is every Wednesday. I post roleplay help videos on YouTube. Those are much shorter. Those are more like somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes, and those go up every Wednesday at 2 p.m. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you would like more writing help, roleplay help. I do all kinds of things on there that just help overall with roleplay. And then the other place to find me is on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is it's Karen Terry. All of this stuff is linked below. Like you can find it all below. And that's where like I post like personal stuff and thoughts and things like that. So that's the other place that I actually make content. If you are interested in coming on as a guest to this stream, like Bree did earlier today, then you'll also want to join the Discord, link down below, because that's where we hook it all up for you. And that's also where on Fridays you get told what the stream topic is going to be, so you can decide if you would like to join us or not. I also, if you're interested in supporting either my YouTube channel or the stream or basically anything that I'm working on, I've got a Patreon also linked down below if you'd like to do one-time donations, PayPal link down below. Every bit of money that I make in there goes right back into the production of my YouTube channel and of this stream. And that's it. That's all my shilling. That's where you can find me. So come find me and follow me. So Landon and Naomi, whoever wants to go next, where can we find you guys?
You can find me on Instagram. This is Landon. You can find me on Instagram at Land in Maine. Also, Landon Writes has a thing there, but I don't really post on there sometimes.
Fair enough. And Naomi, where can we find you?
You can find me at naomi.colours on Instagram, and that's colours with a U, because I like the British way. So yeah, if anybody's struggling in lockdown, just grab an adult colouring book and some pencils or pens and just tag me on Instagram, and yeah, and just talk. We'll just
Yeah.
talk and get started, and yeah, it's a great way to relieve anxiety and to just almost get into a meditative state when you're just not meditating. So yeah.
And Naomi's colors on there, the pages that she colors are super inspiring. So I recommend everybody going and following that Instagram account, even if you're not super interested in joining the coloring community, just because they're just beautiful to look at.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, that's our show today, guys. And as a reminder, because I always forget to actually say the name of the show. The show is called It's called, what is it called? Interstage Window. It's called Interstage Window. Oh my God. So if you, and VODs are posted on my YouTube channel, and if you want to just listen to the audio of this, that is available on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. Just look for Interstage Window. And that's it. That's our show. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.